met a man, his name was Jim, who had a story no one would believe in. While camping out, his wife and he saw a herd of elk swimming in a lake among a dark-covered thing. It pushed them along, it had arms like an oar, walked around on his tiptoes, looked like a hair-covered man on the shore. Didn't know what it was till many years gone by, but now he knows it's a creature they say started back when the world was 5. Oh, Jim Henry's got a new friend. Walking with Jim Henry, there he goes again, with his hair-covered friend. Well, it started to rain, and then a flood began on the back of Jim's place where the water really started coming in. There was a lair where the creature stayed, but even he had to get himself back and up and out of the way. Jim felt his presence right by his side, but it was so pitch dark and cold and dark and wet outside. He gave a shout, more for Jim than he, to try and scare his fright and all his misery. Oh, Jim Henry's got a new friend. Walking with Jim Henry, there he goes again, with his hair-covered friend. So then one day, while driving through the edge of town, something caught his attention in the ditch that made him really frown. This thing was bound, then bounded out, and shot like an arrow so fast across the street before he could shout. Oh my, what's that? Looks like a hair-covered man, running faster than a deer being chased by a bear through the bottomland. One thing's for sure, old Jim knows they're real, and he hopes someday we can all get together and make a deal, just to live together forevermore. 'Cause he knows this world's big enough for both from shore to shore. Oh, Jim Henry's got a new friend. Walking with Jim Henry, there he goes again, with his hair-covered friend. Thanks, you guys. I'll be back later on. We're running a little late, so we're going to get this show started. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Enjoy your day.
Morning, everybody. Oh, you can do better than that. It's not that hot yet. Come on. There we go. I like the jazz hands, sir. Love it. Love it. As Mel mentioned, I am indeed Jason McLean, author of Metroplex Monsters, Dallas Demons, Fort Worth Goatmen, and Other Terrors of the Trinity River. And you can find me pretty much 3-4 times a week on Texas Front Porch on YouTube. It's going to be a great show. The guests will be up here momentarily. Some of them you may have heard of once or twice. So you're all excited for the conference today? That's more like it. Love it. All right. I guess it's time for y'all to come up here. They're getting tired of me. I'm only so sexy. I can't carry the whole thing. They're scared. They're a little nervous, you know. They're shy. They're usually working in the dark. Give them an applause. Let's, like Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell needs the applause. They need the applause. Are y'all worried about who's going to bite?
Hello.
Can you guys hear me through this microphone?
No. Here, let me fix that for you.
Good to see so many fans here, huh? Fans. Yeah. Dad jokes.
That was awful. Almost as bad as the ghost panda they found.
Wow.
Yeah, apparently they eat bamboo.
Yeah, I'm with this.
Yeah, that required a much greater groan from y'all. Is it too early? Is it too early for the dad jokes? Okay, we'll start here. Mr. Dave Schrader. Dave, where can they find you?
Where can they find me?
Yes.
Right here on stage, right
Excellent.
now. Yeah. I'm also the host of the Paranormal 60. It's a podcast you can watch every Monday and Friday on YouTube. You can catch it on all the audio podcasts Tuesday and Saturday and catch up with us there.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Sarah?
Yes. So you can find me at mediumsaralemos.com, or you can check out Discovery Plus, where you can see Ghost Town of Terror.
Ghost Town of Terror?
Yeah.
It sounds like a great show.
It's a good time.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
Could also be a ride at Disneyland. You should expand out into that. You should talk to him about that. Marketing opportunities. Jason Hawes.
Hello.
I think they've heard of you.
Yeah, I've been around.
Once or twice? First time, long time, right?
Yeah. So thank you for coming, guys. Greatly appreciate you out here. Hopefully you've been enjoying the new seasons of Ghost Hunters.
Any place else they can find you?
Well, we did Ghost Nation, Ghost Hunters. I mean, yeah, pretty much that's where it is. So,
Excellent. And
Sherry.
Sherry, thank you. I was saying like
Jerry,
I got like 2 hours of sleep last night. I apologize.
Well, again, with Ghost Hunters and Ghost Nation, that's where you can find me too.
Excellent. Now, all these people came, I'm assuming, feet away to ask y'all some wonderful questions. We're going to be setting up a mic here shortly, but let's get some of the basics out of the way. We'll start with you, Sherry, since you were the last one to go.
Okay.
What got you into all of this?
Oh God, long story, but it was a personal experience that I had in my house. Something that frightened me enough to, I just wanted to figure out what the hell was going on. All of a sudden there was a full body apparition standing at the bottom of my bed while I'm being held down. So after that night, it was kind of, I need to figure out what the hell is going on, and
Right.
can I get, more harmed or anything else going to happen. So that's when I started my research and all of that. A long time ago. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Perfect. Jason, by the way, love your name.
me or her? What are you talking about?
No, here.
I got you.
Sherry's.
He doesn't know mine.
I don't know her.
Honestly, I had my own experience back. I wasn't really somebody who thought anything about the paranormal. I had my own experience back when I was about 19, which kind of pushed me into the area of trying to look at how these things are possible. And upon researching, there was just so much garbage. Everybody was claiming everything was a ghost, right down to dust at night. And from there, I just wanted to find my own answers. So started investigating. Shortly after, met up with Steve Gonzalez. And the rest is history. I mean, most people don't realize Steve's been with me longer than anybody. He's been with me for 30 years now.
Really?
Yeah, so, yep.
Excellent. Sarah, how about yourself?
So I am a psychic medium, and my gifts came very clear to me about 5 years old. And so I've been working with my gifts since I was about 5, and have been blessed to watch many of these amazing humans up here on television that helped me and got me pumped about knowing that I'm okay being who I am. So I do thank everybody up here on the panel because of them, I knew it was okay to be who I was born to be. Pretty much.
I'm not even gonna ask you, Dave.
I don't blame you.
Not with that shirt.
Yeah. I just grew up in a world of strange paranormal occurrences happening around me, so it always just kept my interest up. And then in, I think it was 2005, this TV show came out on Sci-Fi Channel.
2004.
2004. Definitely. Remember it well. And I was watching an episode and they kept losing all their equipment and blaming Brian Hanois. So being an ex-AV nerd, I took to the interweb and I emailed TAPS. And I said, the best way to keep control of all of your equipment is... And then all of a sudden, bing, my AOL Messenger popped and it was Jason Hawes. And he goes, hey man, good email. I don't like to email. Let me call you. And I looked over at my wife and I said, Jason Hawes is going to call. And then all of a sudden my caller ID said, Hawes, Jason, Hawes, Jason. Hello? Hey man, good idea. I like those plans. What do you think about this one? He asked my opinion on how to control some of the AV equipment and then invited me out to UNIVCon in Pennsylvania at the State College. And that was right at I think October 2005. Yep. And I got picked up in a black SUV by Jason and Grant at my hotel, and they drove me to UNIVCon. Yeah, it was fucking surreal. I'm sitting in the backseat.
Usually that story wouldn't end.
No, it was awesome. So but then a month later, I got a chance to start my radio show, and they said, well, who are you going to bring on? So I called Jason. I'm like, want to be my first guest? Sure, man. And he came on, and he was a champ. The episode is out there. For some reason, Mexican music was piped through the phone line through his whole interview. So he would answer me on one phone and listen to me on the other so he could hear what was going on. So for the first half an hour of our interview with Jason Hawes, you're hearing so hard while he's talking to us. So Jay, if it wasn't for Jay, we wouldn't have Darkness Radio. I wouldn't be up here today. We wouldn't have had all the opportunities. So this is the guy. Yeah. And he's pissed off about it every day since.
Yeah, I was about to say, so it's Jason's fault. That's what I'm hearing.
Exactly.
Jason, you gotta think through these things, man. So, quick question: when they picked you up in the SUV, did they put a bag over your head? And
no, it was so cool. But I just sat in the back seat quiet because it was like the cameraman in the back seat while they were going to film an episode. And finally, Grant goes, are you going to say anything? I go, I don't know, I'm just waiting for you guys to fist bump. That's it. And then they started laughing. I go, it just is really surreal to be back here. And I think I was their private photographer the entire weekend for people coming up to do pictures because I just hung out with them and did everybody's shots for that. So they were cool. So it's a great opportunity and good guys. They stood behind what they did and we started doing events together and that's where we are.
Wow.
Wonderful.
That's cool.
Yeah, they don't know if they should be happy about that or not, Jay.
Yeah.
So Hawes is responsible.
I gotta think about it. Anyway, Miss Sherry, I'm gonna call on you since you're so lovely, and I remember your name now.
Thank you.
What's the weirdest experience you've had out researching that's not Jason related? I understand that the stakes for weird can be high if he's around.
God, weird. I don't know. I mean, I've seen someone get picked up and thrown. I think that's probably the weirdest thing that I've ever seen. I mean, you get the regular, the lights on and the knockings and the footsteps and people touching you and things like that. But I think the weirdest thing that I've ever experienced was that I saw somebody being picked up and thrown across the room.
I think that hits on the weirdometer.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's fair.
Thank you.
I'm going to switch it up. Sarah,
Yes,
what is the most normal thing that's happened to you in your investigations?
for real.
No.
Okay.
What's the weirdest?
I would
don't
say
think they
the-
care about normal.
For me, it's the full body apparition that we caught on Ghost in Morgan City. Yeah, full body apparition. Yep. That to me was, and then being told I had to go in afterwards. I would say, yeah. That was quite an experience to see something, and everybody's, and really being in everybody else's experience of seeing something that phenomenal.
What did it look like?
To me, she looked like a young woman who was a nurse, and she was carrying a tray, and her hair was done up in a bun, and she had no feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
But she just faded out, or just was it like a
Just no
line?
feet, and she just kind of glided across the floor. Yeah, it was the most incredible thing I think I've ever seen.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to you, Jason.
That's good.
Dave, aside from being kidnapped by Jason Hawes, what's the
Yes.
weirdest thing that's happened to you?
You know, I think the most profound experience was in season 2 of the Holzer Files. I got to involve my daughter, Ripley. Yeah, thank you for watching, sir. For one person out there.
Hey, we
How many
got you one
people?
fan.
How many people saw the Holzer Files? How many people have not seen the Holzer Files? Can you please just go? I don't have time for your shit. Go. No. The second season, we visited a place called the Franklin Castle in Ohio, and there were all these crazy stories surrounding it, and it hit on a lot of different levels, and found out that there was a little girl's spirit who would only make herself known to children. And it really hit me because the day we went to film, I was scrolling through my Facebook memories, and there was a memory of my daughter from 3 years before when I almost lost her due to complications from type 1 diabetes. So I was just kind of in this maudlin space, and I go in that day to interview the historian. And as we're talking, and she starts telling me these stories, she goes, yeah, and then there's the little girl who passed away due to complications to diabetes. And she seems to be looking for her father. And I just got so emotional during that episode. I kept bawling. They literally, I think I cried 90% of the episode. How they cut around me, not bawling, is amazing. But when they came to me and they're like, well, what are we gonna do to get this little girl to come out, this spirit, because you're all adults and she only seems to make herself known to kids. So I contacted my daughter and I said, would you be willing to make a video of yourself asking some questions? And she agreed to do it. So she made me 2 little videos of 5 questions. And if you saw the episode, I play the video and while I'm running my EVP, and we got responses. And then a little bit later on, we caught that apparition sitting on the windowsill behind us. And to me, that was one of the most profound events, because it was just being able to incorporate my daughter in the episode and then capturing that and having that moment. I also love the fact that we whipped out a Ouija board in that episode, knowing it was going to piss everybody off. But we did something different. Instead of trying to communicate, I contacted all of my friends that are big into the Ouija board industry, and Bob Murch, the historian, and I asked him, can we use this to close down all the previous, and yeah, that should work. So we did a closing ceremony to try to close all the previous experiences there to try to help these spirits out. So that was, just like the whole feel of that episode was something different than we'd ever done before. So that would be my most profound.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I know those of you that watch Holzer Files thought I was going to mention getting knocked on my ass at Whaley House. I'm still scratching my head over that one. That's weird.
You know, it's funny. I made that a screensaver on my home computer.
I know. Did you see? One of the asshole fans.
I ran
dearly.
it through a gift generator. It just kept on watching you get knocked down.
I'll send you the better one where it keeps knocking down, and he's got Chumbawamba playing in the back. I get knocked down, but I get up again. He keeps having to jump back and forth. So
That is the greatest thing I've ever heard.
yeah.
What a great.
I know you want me to ask him, but should I ask him? I don't know. He looks a little sketchy to me. So before I ask him, though, the mic is open, so if you lovely people have questions, feel free to start heading this way. All right, Jason. What's the weirdest thing that's happened to you? Aside from kidnapping a radio host.
Jeez, I got 6 kids, man. There's a lot of weird things that have happened.
Tell me about it, yeah, seriously.
6 kids. What a rookie. I've got 11.
I got 6 I know of.
There you go.
So, anyways, but the weirdest thing, geez. I don't, see, most of the cases that we handle aren't televised. We do cases where we're called in as a cult specialist working with law enforcement. We do cases where we're sent by the religious organizations to write up preliminary reports on so-called possessions and demonic haunts, which 99.9% of those have nothing to do with hauntings. So yeah, it's a lot of those type cases are the weirdest, because you're going in and you're dealing with somebody who, chances are they're mentally unstable.
Right.
And that's the situation you're dealing with. So you never know, and that's the thing, even as a plumber, you never know who's on the other side of that door when you go to somebody's house.
Yes.
And we've had situations like that. I mean, Steve can tell you that we had a situation we were investigating out in Maine where we had a self-proclaimed sensitive with us, and he started flipping out on the stairs as we were trying to go up the stairs, trying to kick at us. It was a situation where I had to knock him out so we could get out of the house, because you never know what is going to affect somebody. You never know what is going to happen, so you always got to be prepared.
No, absolutely. I spent some time as a mobile notary, so I'm right there with you going to people's houses where you're like, oh, okay, I need to leave now.
Yeah, I went to a plumbing job. I had to hold a guy down with my boot on his head for the cops to come. So you never know what you're dealing with, because you never know if somebody's on the other side of the door on drugs, if they have a mental disorder. I mean, we were chased by a little old lady who invited us in, who believed she had something going on. And Steve and I were sitting there, and she went to the kitchen, and they came after us with a frying pan because she forgot she invited us in. And so you feel bad because her problem isn't paranormal, and she needs help beyond that. So you need to be able to help them in that way as well.
Yes, no, absolutely. Sir, in the Mandalorian shirt, love it.
All right, so we good, Bruce or Ron? Okay, so I have Bruce here, and he's got a question for anybody that wants to take it.
Hey, thanks for showing up. Glad to have you guys here. Oregon, got some haunted locations. I mean, where would you guys recommend top, easy to get to without getting, pulled over or thrown out of a building? Can you recommend any places here in Oregon for paranormal investigations, houses, asylums, that sort of thing?
So I would say it's Shanghai Tunnels. So if you can get in there, it's a great place to go. And they do tours all the time. There's a lot of great Airbnbs that are haunted. So that's another idea here in Oregon. And then, I'm gonna say it wrong, but the Pettit Mansion? Did I say it right? Okay, so yeah, I went on that one. That's another great place to check out. But honestly, our Capitol building in Salem, Oregon is haunted. So take some time out, walk around the Capitol building. It's a great place to check out. That's what I'm from.
And you guys are only like about an hour drive from Trout Lake, Washington, where the Isetti Ranch is, and that's where all the UFO activity happens.
Yep.
It is crazy. I did an episode of Paranormal State back in like 2007. We took the kids wanted to go off demons and ghosts for an episode and wanted to go UFO hunting, so they asked me about the place I'd been, so they took me on the episode. We went up there with Chip Coffee and got to investigate a UFO ranch, and it's crazy, but they're very nice up there. They're very open to you visiting. So if you're interested, it's eceti.org is the website, eceti.org. Go up there and check it out. It's bonkers. I've been there 3 times. I've never been let down with the strange stuff I've seen.
Myself also, that is a great place.
What did he say?
He said it's a great place.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, it's amazing. If you are into the UFO aspect, and even if you're not, the guy claims on a clear night you have a 90 to 95% chance of seeing UFO activity over his property. And as an investigator, how do you not go to a place that promises you a 90 to 95% chance? Just don't go on nights of a full moon. You want to go on a waning moon, because then you can see the sky more clearly.
Ma'am, I have a feeling I know who you're going to be asking questions of.
Yes, this question is for Jason, so here you go.
First of all, I'd like to say that I've been watching you from the beginning, me and my daughter. Of all the places you've been to, what's your favorite?
Oh, geez, my favorite. Well, in the U.S., the Stanley Hotel, St. Augustine Lighthouse, I mean, those are some of my favorite locations. I mean, St. Augustine Lighthouse, we weren't even supposed to film it. It was just the luck of the draw. We were supposed to be filming at Ripley's down the street, and one of the heads from over there contacted us and said, hey, if they don't catch anything, can we still come off positive? I was like, screw that, done, not even taking a chance filming there. So we thought, we did the cool thing. We all rented a bunch of mopeds and drove around St. Augustine. But some locals said, you got to check out the lighthouse. It's been rumored to be haunted forever. I went over, we talked to some of the people who worked there. They gave us a tour, told us about the activity, and I decided that we were going to spend a week filming there, and that turned out to be a gold mine. Yeah, Stanley Hotel, one of my favorite locations. I mean, you got Waverly Hills. I mean, these locations really are incredible.
How about Lamp Castle?
Leap Castle, oh, I loved it. Yeah, you're talking overseas in Ireland and stuff. Yeah, the Leap Castle Lachine ruins, where we caught what appeared to be these little figures walking behind the team as we were walking through the ruins. Yeah, I mean, and overseas, there's so much history compared to what we have here in the U.S. So, yeah, you get over there, I mean, you're walking through 5,000-year-old tombs. And, yeah, so it's amazing. It really is. Thank you.
Ma'am, you said you've been following him from the beginning? Yes. Why have you put up with him for so long?
It's amazing.
You know, I've watched all of your guys' shows, and I'm sorry, but he's my favorite.
Oh, thank you.
That's funny, because I'm sorry he's your favorite too.
Hi, Jason. You're a popular guy today. Here's another question for you.
Hi, my name is Sophie, and my co-host Heather Fisher back there, we started a podcast basically because of your show. We have been watching you, of course, forever since season 1, and we loved your skeptical perspective, where you're going in to disprove a haunting, not prove it, right? You're trying to eliminate anything that could be naturally caused. And that really influenced our experience and our view of the paranormal. And so we started a podcast, and it's called Where's My Flashlight? We have a shared history of me being a 12-year-old stupid little girl bringing over a Ouija board to her house, and then she had shadow people in a haunted house after that. And I didn't put it together until much later, and so we have this shared history now that we're both in love with the paranormal, and we'd love to have you as a guest.
Oh, well, thank you. Oh, so set me up with the information. I'll reach out. As Dave will tell you, I tend to reach out to everybody, so it's just how I do it.
It helps if you have AV equipment information to share with us.
No. But, and I appreciate that you're following us since the beginning. And the nice thing, you know, it's funny, because a lot of people are like, you know, you guys used to go in and try to debunk a haunt, and we still do. What people don't realize is, you know, we have full say. I have full say on where we investigate. I control who's on the team, who's not, all that stuff. But the networks always have full say on which episodes air. So I can film 100 episodes. They choose which ones they want to put on their network. So there's still, my favorites are the ones we're able to get in and debunk and figure out what is going on. Just like what we did at Moss Beach Distillery, where they were faking stuff, hiding things in the ceiling. And I fought with the network to make sure they aired that. Right. Because they were like, oh, they're going to get torn apart. Yeah, but they were the assholes who did it. So let's let the world know. So, you know, things like that. So we go in believing that over 80% of all claims can be disproved. It's just, you know, of course, the networks control which things air on their network. So.
Yeah, that is very frustrating because, frankly, we love the episodes where you don't catch any.
It was my favorite.
You don't catch any EVPs or any kind of evidence, because that shows to people what ghost hunting is typically like. Well, most of the time you're not going to catch anything, and it's a lot of sitting around and waiting, right?
Yeah, like the case in New Jersey, Ghost Nation, we did, where we found it was actually a broken plug system that was fueling all these high electromagnetic fields in the house, and it was near all their heads. We paid, we had an electrician come in, fix it. They haven't had any haunting since. Right. So it wasn't paranormal to start with. So yeah, those are my favorite. But thank you so much. And yeah, just set me up with your info.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. You know, Jason, you're catching a lot of blame today.
Blame? No,
yeah. Dave, Sophie.
Oh, Dave's been blaming me for 20 years. I don't give a shit. So.
All right, so we have Jake here. He's got another question for Jason.
So it's actually back from your book that you and Grant wrote. You investigated a cult out in the woods somewhere. Yeah. And I just wanted to know, you know, that feeling that you guys had when you were in that trailer with the lady that was missing the cast. I just want to know, you know, what that feels like. And
well, you know, the tough part of dealing with a cult is it's not the 70s anymore when everybody thought it was cool to admit that they were part of the cult. Now it's all underground, so they know who they are. You don't, but they also know who you are, and that's the biggest problem. Is especially now with my face being out there everywhere. I mean, it's easy to know where I am or where I'm going to be and stuff like that. So you got to be careful. But yeah, it's tough when you never know who it is. I mean, somebody coming up shaking your hand at an event could be somebody who really has some negative feelings towards you, and so forth. So you always have to be careful on that. But yeah, I mean, it's terrifying. It's terrifying when you don't know who your enemy is.
Right.
So.
And then another question. There's a place out in Damascus, Oregon called Anubis Gate. Have you ever heard of it or thought about investigating it? It's supposed to be super haunted.
So I had heard about it, but I haven't checked into it. But I know that there's plans of us coming to Oregon over the next few months to film.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right, well, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I've been watching this since the beginning.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hello. Hi. Hello, Lexi.
I have a question. What's your guys' scariest sighting?
Well, I guess my sighting was pretty much my personal experience with a full body apparition of a doppelganger of my ex-boyfriend. And that was holding me down. That was part of my first experience.
Oh, wow.
You know, my main experience why I got into it, but that's my scariest one.
Scariest sighting. I don't look at it as scary. I look at it as intriguing. So honestly, anytime that we've been able to catch what appears to be a full body apparition or something showing up is just intriguing to me. So,
Sir, she asked for scary.
I know. It's in the morning when I wake up and I first look in the mirror. I mean, so from there.
Understandable. Understandable. Sarah, what about yourself?
You know, honestly, I would say anytime that there's a physical, like getting scratched and things like that, sometimes can be scary. But honestly, most of the stuff, it's intriguing. It's something you want to learn more about. But you know, when you are scared, it's good to know that you have power over this domain. So all you got to do is tell it to get out, and it better be getting out. So that's what I would say.
So aside from being kidnapped by random ghost hunters, Dave?
Yeah, I was about 11 years old. I grew up in Illinois, and I was walking to my friend's house one day when kids used to walk out places and go to places. And I was walking past this house, and I happened to look in. And this was back in the 70s, so there wasn't 2,000 channels to distract us, or cell phones, or all the different electronics. So people used to just look out windows and check out the neighborhood. And I walked by, and there was a guy standing in the picture window looking out. And I took a few more steps, and I glanced back, and now he was outside in front of his hedges. So somehow he went through the window, past his sidewalk, and around the hedges. And I was walking, and I was trying to process what I just saw, and I turned back around, and he was in the middle of the yard. And then when I had hair started standing up on end, I got a little bit further away and turned around. He was on the corner of the yard, probably as close to me as she is. And I took off running. And I found out later the father had passed away that Christmas, on Christmas morning, had passed away in the front room, and that's probably what I saw. It was only frightening to me because I just couldn't process what I was seeing at that young an age. Now I look back, it wasn't like he had a severed head he was floating around trying to catch me with. It was just my brain couldn't process how this man was getting from place to place without moving. So that was the freakiest. So I'm an adult now, I'm almost 55. When I go back home to visit, I take the long way around so I don't have to pass that house still. And my dad thinks it's funny to pull into their driveway when I'm in the car with them. So never tell your parents what scares you, because they will harass you until you're 55 about it.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I like your hat, by the way.
Good question, sweetheart.
Yeah, very good.
My co-host would love it.
What was the most unexplained experience that you've ever had?
Is that for everyone or anyone but
Everyone.
Jason? Oh, okay, everyone. I guess we're going to have to include you. Let's start with Sarah. She hasn't gone first for a while.
Let's see, so like unexplainable.
Yeah.
Honestly, it would be a UFO experience that I had. Is that okay to share? Okay, so I was actually in Ireland. This is twice that I got a train on my question. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, the trains don't like you today.
It only happens when you go first.
That's true. It's true.
Yeah.
I was actually in Ireland with Barry Fitzgerald from Ghost Hunters International. And love Mr. Baz. And we were out in front of a incredible castle late at night. And we saw a UFO. And the UFO came so close that it actually blinded me in my left eye. And took off. And it was one of the I can't explain it. I just think that it was definitely, for me, I can't say that it definitely was anything. I'm assuming it was a UFO, and it was crazy.
Wonderful. Sherry, how about yourself?
I can't really pinpoint one. There's so many unexplained things, which is why we don't really know what's really going on out there. So unfortunately, I can't really think of one there's just so many. I don't know.
You sound like my daughter after school. What'd you
Yeah,
learn today? There's so many things we
There's so many
learned.
things that we learned. I don't know, because there's just so many things that we don't know. Like things move around, but we don't know. It's unexplainable. You know, we have things touching us, but it's unexplainable because we don't know what's seen. You know, we haven't seen it, so there's just so many things. I don't know.
I think when it comes down to it, any place that you go that's had so many tragedies, you like Waverly Hills, where 30,000 plus people passed away. You had so many people dying that they were being loaded on a death chute conveyor belt system and fed down. The Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, where a person pretended that they had the cure for cancer and were just loading bodies out at night. I mean, these places, so many people died, so there's so much greater of a chance to have some sort of supernatural activity.
Well, and since Sarah told a UFO story, I'll tell a Bigfoot story, since that's what this conference is all about.
It's about time somebody was on theme.
Yeah, my grandparents owned 40 acres in Foley, Alabama, and they only used 10 of it. The rest of it was just wild country. We had a pond that my cousins and I would fish in, and I was probably about 11 or 12 years old. We were fishing, and we heard something crunching around out in the woods, and there's so many animals you don't even think twice about it, but it sounded really big. And you could hear the, and my cousin and I were looking at each other, and at the back of the pond there were these high shrubs, and all of a sudden this hand came up over the top of the shrub and pushed it down. So I could see from about under the nose to the top of the forehead, and it had this kind of wild blackish gray mane and a dark inset face, and it just stared at my cousin and I remember the hand, it reminded me of Chewbacca because it had like fur that came over the tips of the hand. And it pushed down the bush and just looked at us. And we're used to our dads were kind of smart asses, so they were always trying to scare us. So we kind of looked at each other at first, and then looked back at this thing, and then Scooby-Dooed it up the hill. We ran into the house half expecting to find everybody laughing. Everybody was in the house. When we told them what we saw, they grabbed rifles, guns, and everybody went out to check the woods, because they didn't know if there was some person out there or what was going on. But that was one of the most unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it since. I can't say it was a Bigfoot, but I can't explain what else it was. It was huge, had a full head of mane hair and a back, a very deep set dark face staring at us through the bushes. So that was really an uncomfortable, very weird position to be in at that age, not knowing what the hell kind of animal you're looking at.
Amazing.
Wow, that's a great story.
That is a good story.
Please hold your applause to the end.
Y'all got enough applause these days.
I know they're just so quiet, I'm not sure if we've lulled them to sleep.
There, hold on. We did a countdown earlier. On the count of 3, you know what to do. You ready? 1, 2, 3.
Nice.
They're still awake.
So this is it's kind of a question for everybody, but like, what's the scariest experience you've had while investigating like any just place that's haunted that you've investigated?
Getting pushed to the ground at Whaley House, because I didn't believe all the claims of people being pushed and scratched. I always kind of thought maybe they were overactive imaginations. And when something hit me, I turned around expecting, because when you're filming, it's very dark. And you guys watching TV kind of get a false sense of security because you get to see the night vision. You get to see how lit up it is for you. In our room, it was very dark. And I thought one of the camera guys had come around me and tripped on the carpet because it hit me with that kind of force that it felt like something big and heavy. And when I hit, thankfully Shane was there, poor Shane, right? I hit him, he hit the wall, and I hit the floor. And when I turned around, I was half expecting to see a camera guy laying on the ground as well, and when there was nobody there, that really threw me for a loop. That was freaky.
I don't know if I can. That is scary.
Yeah.
That's really scary.
Yeah, when you don't really believe in parts of the paranormal, like the violence of it, and then it actually happens, and that was our first episode we filmed together. Shane goes on to say, I looked at him and I thought, man, did this old man just have a heart attack?
Did you?
No.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Scary.
Jason, I guess I'll call on you next.
Oh, geez. Well, we had a case a long time ago, actually. We had New York Times bestselling author Jodi Picoult with us, and we had investigated. And while we were sent there by the church, but while we were there, the father was sitting there talking to us, hand on the door jamb and everything else, and the door closed and removed the tip of his finger while we were there. So, and we were stuck there for literally 3 days because we were in a blizzard and we were waiting for the clergy to show up. So, I mean, that was probably the most terrifying because you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
So,
Oh, wow. Sherry?
I've never been scared on like an investigation. Me personally, in my house, yes. But when I'm out doing investigations, I've never actually gotten hurt. I've had people or something, touch me and push me and things like that. But I've never been like scared, more like fascinated and, really into it. But I haven't been hurt, knock on wood.
What about Jason's driving? Has that ever scared you?
Oh my God, yeah.
My driving?
How does he know about your driving?
What the hell are you even talking about? What's wrong with my driving? What's wrong with my driving?
I'll tell you later.
Sarah?
Honestly, during Ghosts of Morgan City, I think it was episode number 3, we were dealing with a child spirit who had gotten really scared because Jeremy Leonard had come in and started throwing things because he felt like he needed to start an exorcism. The little girl became really scared and I moved her into the kids' room. And right when I moved her in, I was wearing a shawl and it was pulled down my backside. And I remember dancing in the kids' room as if my feet were on fire because I didn't know what to do because I had been physically grabbed and my shirt was being tugged down the backside of me. So that was pretty spooky.
Absolutely. Ma'am, thank you. Yes, now you can applaud.
Yeah. Hello, my name's Carol. I actually have a statement. I just want to thank you for legitimizing the paranormal and bringing it up to science. And I appreciate all your shows. It's amazing. And are you going to get together with maybe Amy and Adam again soon?
Am I going to have Amy and Adam back again soon? We've had them on a bunch of the new episodes of Ghost Hunters, and that's what honestly that was the. So I refused to do Ghost Hunters without the team. So we went and did Ghost Nation, and it wouldn't be Ghost Hunters without the team. The show's never been about me. It's been about everybody who makes up the team. So we went and did Ghost Nation, and then. We took Ghost Hunters back, and thank you. And it was all about trying to bring back all the faces from the past. So we've had Amy and Adam there. We've had Chris Williams out with us, Dustin, and keep on tuning in. You'll see a bunch of people. So, thank you.
So my question is for Jason. There was an episode where you did an armory, and the cameraman, Ken, I believe was his name, we saw the camera where his bag came up.
Frank, yep, New Bedford Armory, yep.
All right. Where are you in touch with him? How's he doing?
Frank quit right after that. Yeah,
right after.
He came back for an episode, but then he had quit. Yeah, because he was somebody who didn't believe in the paranormal and had that experience, and he just said, he goes, "This is not what I signed on to do." So he quit.
So he was a non-believer until that happened?
He was a non-believer, yeah. That experience changed him and his life.
Are you in touch with him?
I've spoken to him a couple times throughout the years, but yeah, we stayed in touch, especially for like the first year or two. Yeah. But after that, he's still an audio guy and works on other shows, just nothing paranormal.
Yeah. That's fair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's a good question.
Sir, first of all, thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I did not have a question for Jason.
No, actually, I want to go back to the East City branch. I like that story. I know James Gillian and Dylan's place, and I used to go up there every weekend with Clyde Lewis on last weekend of Clyde Lewis with Ground Zero.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, we used to go up there every, like the last weekend in August. And being how this is a Bigfoot fest, he also claims to have seen a Bigfoot there 5 years ago. Just wonder if you guys were familiar with that story.
Well, yeah, when we went out there with Paranormal State, they told us a story of these cryptid creatures. One they called Bat Squatch. It was like it was like this winged version of Bigfoot.
Hi. Yes.
Hi there.
How are you?
And Bat Squatch was, that was new to me. You know, we were there really just trying to find the UFO connection and what we could actually see. And we caught a lot of really cool stuff happening. And to me, that episode has one of the greatest lines ever uttered on a paranormal TV show. When we were filming, early in the day, James Gilliland stopped and he, you know, they asked him, well, how do we know anything's going to happen? He said, oh, and he pointed to a part in the sky, like Babe Ruth calling the shot, and he said, they told me they're going to appear in this part of the sky around 10:30 tonight. And that was it. And about a half an hour later, they bring Chip Coffey there. Now, Chip doesn't know we're there for UFOs. They think, you know, there's a house on property, he thinks he's coming to investigate it. And as he's getting a feel for the land, all of a sudden he slowly turns and he looks to the sky and he goes, something's going to happen up in this part of the sky tonight. And he just kind of got this perplexed feeling and he goes, why am I here? And they wouldn't tell him anything. So that night, about 10 o'clock, we're all in this little flatbed truck deal and we drive out there. And it's, you know, all the young guys and Chip and I, and we're sitting on there, and all of a sudden you see this light come crossing across the sky. So everybody uses their little green laser pointers and they kind of pinpoint it and it stops. And then it starts to pulse. And Chip Coffey stands up and he goes, blast us with your power! And they had to cut away because an eighth of a second later, we all burst into hysterical laughter. But it was such a beautiful, pure moment. He was so excited to see UFO. And that was just his response, blast us with your power! And then it was gone. So it was just a cool moment. And like I said, I've been there 3 times. I have never been let down by the weirdness of that location.
That's a fact. There's always something going on. Well, being at the base of Mount Adams, they even say there's a trap door coming out of Mount Adams where they have UFOs coming out.
Yeah.
And I've never seen that trap door, of course. But
Well, there's supposedly photos and video where you see something like open on the side of the mountain. If you go look up Isetti Ranch on YouTube, there's a lot of footage. But one of them shows what looks like a kind of almost like a black cross open on the side of Mount Adams. Something flew in, and that was like back in 2006. So I don't think that a lot of people had home, you know, audio or video stuff that could allow them to do that kind of special effect. But I don't know. It's definitely crazy.
It's definitely crazy.
Yeah, good place to visit.
Very spiritual place.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Blast us with your power! Thank you, sir. That's the call now. Anytime you see a UFO, I want you to stand up and scream that out loud.
One moment, ma'am. We would like to thank Canby Graphic and Signs for supporting this conference and allowing all of us to come here. Let's say thank you to Canby Graphic and Signs. And if you need graphic and signs accoutrement, I suppose, maybe, you know, next time you can go have them make a sign so you can bring out here to show your love for these wonderful people. Go give them a stop. Again, Canby Graphic and Signs. Thank you, Canby. Madam.
I
How
don't
are you
even know if
doing?
I'm going to follow that up.
I don't know that you can, but you're going to. I have faith in you.
Thanks. My name's Anna. First off, Dave, Kitsy Duncan says hi.
Oh, great.
Really good friends with her and adore her. My question's actually for all of you. I know that you guys go to a lot of haunted locations. I know with Sarah being a medium. What do you guys do to protect yourself from any attachments going with you?
You want me to start that?
You can start it, go ahead.
The train hasn't come yet.
That's what I'm saying.
Hurry, Sarah, hurry. You know, to me, it's stating an intention, right? So stating an intention of what I want to occur while I'm in a location. Yes, I wear crystals. Yes, I wear different essential oils, right? And that's just how I work with energy. But I think understanding that we have power over this domain, so that's helpful too. And knowing that I have friends in the field that if I run into something, I can make a phone call. So.
Yeah. I don't believe that power comes from anything that you're holding on to. I think the power is inside of you. I spent my life doing that. I never want to go in somewhere with a cross or holy water or a rabbit's foot that if it's taken away from me, I feel vulnerable. So I think that you can protect yourself. The power is inside of you to do so.
Yeah, there's been so many people that always, you know, you need to have like certain stones and doing whatever. But I haven't been attacked for well over 25 years, and even So yeah, it's best not to just bring anything. Dave.
I have 11 kids. What do you think I know about protection?
Stop there.
Yeah.
Stop there. We're done.
I do a lot of prayer before and after. John Zaffis has kind of mentored me through the years on what to do, especially when we're doing really well-known dark hauntings. You know, so he's always like, not for nothing, Dave. Before you go in, pray, protect yourself. Make yourself open to the spirit communication, but keep the negative stuff at bay so that it can't affect you or attach to you. And then I guess he tells me he has a sign in his garage before he goes in the house that says, make sure you clear yourself. And he'll do a prayer of clearing. So I've always tried to do that. People ask, do we ever bring anything home? I'm not a medium or a psychic, so I've had activity happen when I've got home from a location, but I can't tell if it's like the ghost that came with me of the miner or what it is. Or is it the fact that we're in a haunted location? And, you know, like if you take a paper clip, it's not magnetized. But if you rub it against a magnet and then take it away, it draws other things. So if you're in a location long enough, does it kind of make you open to that so that when you leave, spirits will see that you're open to that? I don't know how that all works. I've had a few experiences of something after I got home, but I can't, again, guarantee if it's from the location or if it's just a local spirit that realizes I'm open to communication. So I do not investigate my own home. If I notice there's something there, I ask help from John or somebody to help me walk through how to clear it. I don't try to communicate. I don't open that up, and my kids don't. So I got, like I said, a big family. My most important thing is keeping them safe.
I would love something to follow me home. Investigate from the comforts of my own couch. I mean, that'd be great. That's ideal.
Yeah.
I do have to say, Jason, I love that you're bringing your kids on Ghost Hunters.
Oh, my daughters? Yeah.
They're amazing. I
Yep.
mean, I watched the show with my mom.
Yeah, well, and it's great. I mean, so the very first episode of Ghost Hunters, Satori was 3 years old, and you saw her run up and give my leg a hug on the show before I was heading out. And my twins were four days old, my twin sons.
Oh, wow.
So now, I mean, Satori's investigating on the show. We've got Samantha, who's been on the show, my oldest, Haley, and now Satori. So it's great. I mean, I've had a blast, and spending time with my daughters doing this and something that they've grown up in a house full of is just been a wonderful experience.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, Sarah, you mentioned essential oils. Does bacon grease count as an essential oil? Dang it! I'm out of luck. Okay, we have 15 minutes left. I'd like to get all these wonderful people's questions, so we'll try and just do one question a person.
Okay.
All right. Well, that kind of shoots mine out the door, but
sorry.
No, it's all good. I want to thank you all for helping me process through my own paranormal experiences throughout the years. Your shows, I've been watching them from the beginning, so thank you very much. My question has to do with cleansing of a place or house or whatever. What is the success rate of that? Does anybody ever contact you back when you ask them to contact you?
So you're talking of like dealing with a negative type entity?
Sure, yeah.
Because cleansing of a house with a human spirit really doesn't make any sense. It's not like they're going in and saying the power of Christ compels you, it's going to push them out. But honestly, I think it comes down to the belief of the homeowner, because you're not going to bring a Catholic priest into a Jewish individual's home. So it all falls down it all comes down to the power of the belief of that homeowner. And yeah, so I mean, we've had great luck bringing. We deal with different clergy from so many different religions. So yeah. Anybody else? Oh, that's it, right. Sorry, one.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you, sir. Thank you.
What is the most visible phenomenon or ghost that you have ever seen?
The most visible phenomenon we've ever seen?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
See, I've that ghost in the yard following me, it looked like a full human. It didn't look ghosty either. I couldn't see through him. So that to me was like the most visual I've ever seen. I've seen mists and shadowy figures, but I don't know if my eyes are playing tricks on me half the time or what. That to me was the most holy mackerel moment because I saw it right there.
Good question.
Excellent question. I like your shirt.
Okay. What is the biggest ghosts or what is the biggest thing that you have seen? Well, ghost that you have seen or heard.
Well, I mean, I keep going back to my personal experience. When I was younger, this apparition appeared at the bottom of my bed, and he was of a man that I knew. But all of a sudden, he's in my room, and I just couldn't figure it out because it was like a real person, you know. And he didn't really say anything to me, but he walked over to me, and I was being held down, not by him, but some other type of force. So to me, again, like it all goes back to that experience. And thank God I've never had again since then.
How tall was it? Like, was he, like,
It was,
looked like it was just
he
him,
was
or was
6
he?
feet, you know, he's 6 feet, just like how it was my ex-husband that, you know, he turned into my ex-husband. So maybe people were saying that's probably, something was warning me way back then, don't marry him, but I did.
Good question. Thank you.
That was a really
Yes.
good question.
I'm 6 years old.
You're
6 years old.
Raising him right.
Hi there. My question is for Sherry.
Yeah.
And you've had so many amazing opportunities to go out and investigate, but I'm curious about what's next on your bucket list in the paranormal world.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Honestly, there's so many places that I haven't been, like the Stanley and the Waverly and all of these places. So kind of my thing is I just want to get to all those places. That's kind of my, and also going to other countries and castles and stuff. I am like obsessed with castles, so that's kind of like where my head is going.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam, I believe Bigfoot saw you. I'm a believer.
Hi, my question is for Sarah.
Yes, sweetie.
What was your first experience as a medium?
So my very first experience was with Mr. Shadows. I was about 5 or 6 years old, and every evening when the shadows would come into my home, so would this man. And he would come and he would stand next to me. Now, I was born way back in the 70s, okay? And we weren't supposed to talk to strangers. It was big stranger danger. I'm guessing many people here remember this in Oregon. It was big stranger danger. And so I wouldn't talk to him, but I would hold my breath and I would hold my blanket over my eyes and I would just hold my breath and hope that he would go away. Believe it or not, he didn't go away for many, many years, but that was one of my very first experiences. Great question.
Thank you. Before anything else, y'all have been a great group, and I want to say thank you to everyone who came up and asked questions. Can we give them an applause? It takes a lot. I know it doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but to come up and talk in front of people, to ask questions of this panel particularly, it's an amazing thing y'all did. You should be proud of yourselves. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Any final parting thoughts or words of wisdom?
Parting for me?
Yeah. No, you. I'm putting you specifically on the
Parting words of wisdom. Get out there. Let your light be shown. Get out there and see what you can find. You've watched the television shows, that's fun. Now find your flashlight and get out there.
Yeah, and also blaze your own trail. I mean, honestly, it's, yeah, you watch shows, you might read books and everything else, but don't follow in somebody else's footsteps. Blaze your own trail. Do it your way. Make it your style.
Absolutely.
I mean, people hated us when we started off because we debunked orbs. So, and it was like, hey, you know, bottom line, it's like I can slap a pillow in the dark, take a picture, there's your ghost.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just blaze your own trail. Do things your own way. It's all about that.
Dave, what about you?
I got no words of wisdom. Just enjoy it. Enjoy everything that you guys do. Get out and watch these shows. Get out and meet the people. Get out and see places. And if you're afraid of doing it on your own, go to these great locations where they do these investigations as groups, and it's a safe environment for you. That would be the best thing I would recommend for anybody that's interested in getting started in this field is go with others, see if it actually is for you. Because sometimes you're excited about it till you go out and then you see the experience for yourself and then realize, yeah, I'm gonna leave it to Jason and his crew to keep investigating. You guys wanna hear the creepiest story I've ever heard in the paranormal? All right, real quick. You guys familiar with the black-eyed kids?
Yes.
Very much.
For those of you that are not, the black-eyed kids is a strange phenomenon that began in the 90s. It's actually, now we're hearing more and more stories going further back, but we were doing an episode on my podcast about the black-eyed kids. And they are groups of anywhere from 1 kid to about 3 to 5 kids. They're usually travel in these little packs. They want to come into your house to use your phone, or get into your car for a ride, or they want you to follow them somewhere. And it's only after a few times of being annoying that the people have realized these kids have jet black eyes, pure black eyes.
Like a shark.
Yeah, thankfully, it seems like vampire and demonology, you have to invite them in for them to get access. But we were telling these stories one night, and I had this great tale that came in. This woman was from Minnesota. We had all this rain for about 2 weeks. And she said, we listen to your show, we watch 9 o'clock news, turn it off at 10 o'clock, we get in bed, we turn on your radio show, we listen, and fall asleep to scary stories. She goes, I want to tell you, we heard about the black-eyed kids, this is our experience. And she goes, it had been during that rainstorm era, and she goes, we turned off the TV, it's 10 o'clock at night, and we hear kids playing around in the front yard. And my husband gets kind of grumpy, and he's peeking through, well, what the hell are these kids doing outside at this time of night? She said, honey, everybody's been bottled up for 2 weeks. Their parents probably just let them go out to have some fun. We used to play in puddles. It's cool. The kids are actually getting out and playing, so they go to bed. 3 o'clock in the morning, the woman wakes up, and standing in her room are 3 children. 2 boys, and in the middle is a girl with long braids. She goes, now Dave, I'm a good listener. I know about the hypnagogic and the hypnopompic states. That's going in and coming out of dream state when your brain is still kind of between those and your dreams can look real. So she goes, I know that I'm just dreaming. I close my eyes, I take a deep cleansing breath, and I open my eyes, and they're still standing there. So I start to open my mouth to scream, and the little girl steps forward and pushes her fingers to her lips and says, shh, we just want to look at you. She screams, lights go on, husband jumps up, they go through the entire house turning on lights in the house, they find nothing. Good husband though, he plays big spoon, and they go back in bed and just cuddle until daylight. So we tell this story. The best part of this story is, that's freaky enough. A week later, I come down at the end of my show, and there's 2 cops in the parking garage. Are you Dave Schrader? Maybe. Is Tim Dennis here? Yeah, he's still up in the studio. Please call him. So I call Tim. I go, Tim, there's 2 cops here. And he goes, tell them I left. And I go, they're standing in front of me listening to me call you. And he goes, okay. So now my head's thinking, oh, what does Tim have in his trunk, right? And these 2 cops are standing there. Tim comes down and they go, listen, guys, we're big fans of the show. You should know emergency workers and cops love your show. We sit around and listen to you guys late at night. We can think it's complete and utter bullshit because this stuff doesn't exist. However, we're listening to your show last week, and at 11:45 you tell that ghost story about the black-eyed kids, and then you go to commercial break. And my partner and I are laughing about it, and then over the radio we get a call. There's an elderly woman calling. There are 3 teenagers in her front yard she doesn't know, and they won't leave. And he goes, so I turn and I look at my partner, and he looks at me, and we said, oh, fuck that. And they turned off the radio and refused to take the call. So that was my favorite part. The cops refused to go on a call because of the black-eyed kids. So that's the power of the paranormal, folks. Sherry.
I forgot what the question was.
Any words of wisdom, like buy low, sell high, look both ways?
Don't I wish? No, you know what? The thing is there's so much crap out there. YouTube and TikTok and whatever else is out there. So I just don't believe everything that you see and hear. There's so much junk out there that wants to be the best, who caught the best, and all of that. So just do not really trust a lot of them. That's all.
With that said, make sure to check out my show on YouTube every Monday and Friday. The Paranormal 60.
Crap. Not like that.
Thank you guys. Y'all have been a great panel.
Thank you.
Y'all have been great. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
And can I mention one thing? The Holzer Files was not picked up for another season. I agree, but Cindy Keza and I were rolled over onto a new show, which is called The Ghosts of Devil's Perch. It begins airing on Travel Channel and Discovery Plus on August 21st. 8 episodes long. I hope you guys will watch it. It'll take you through August, September, and into mid-October. Watch it, and if you want to save paranormal shows, don't binge watch once the series are over. All of the shows rely on you watching that show either on the first day or within 48 hours. So even if you know you're not going to watch it, turn it on in the background and go about mowing your lawn. That's unfortunately how they watch these shows a lot of ways. That it has to show and be seen in the first couple of days. So that will help all of your favorite programs stay on the air a little bit longer.
Thank you. That's great info. Guys, again, thank y'all for coming out. Let's give them a warm thank you. Come on. Let's get them all the way out here. All right, you can go away now. Shoot! Shoot!
Come see us at our tables!
Away with you. Away with you all now.
I don't want to caught on footage. Oh, I think they're not.
We want to have a plan. Sit down.
What's the plan?
Did you show him his son?
Oh, it's so adorable. Thank you, that's cute. So my question is this. Is there a place that you're more likely within our state to experience an unidentified flight?
What happens is we occasionally get reporting area.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I don't think I'm ready for this.
UFO terminology. And I've had a period of time when Cottage Grove kind of blew up, and like for a year or so I got a lot of reports there.
Thank you.
Just
Hi.
sighting reports from Sutherland, which is long
It's okay. It's okay.
About half of them are from locals, and about half are from
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So that's a sort of mysterious place.
Look at those. Do they have names?
Yes.
What are they?
Little Bigfoot and Harry.
Little Big. I like them. That's very cool. Did you want to get a picture?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm over here.
Oh. Sorry, I tried to give her away. Sorry.
I'll take a picture too, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
You do a quick TikTok with me?
TikTok.
Oh, weird.
What is this?
Perfect. Yes.
I have no idea.
Perfect. It's almost over.
You hairless ones in your weird lingo.
Thank you. Out there, more chances for people to see something they cannot identify, so they report it as UFO.
You have an eye. Why doesn't it blink? There's no blinking here. Very weird.
Mel, tell these wonderful people a little bit more about yourself and where they can find you.
Hi, my name is Mel Scahan, and you can find me right here. And I'm an enrolled member of the Yakima Nation, and many of the questions that I get have to do with the spiritual aspect of this being that we call Sasquatch, Bigfoot. And throughout the years, I have gathered many, many stories from my fellow enrolled members of the Yakima Nation located in Central Washington. And I've collected over 1,100 reports in my forestry career. I also worked forestry for 26 years with the Yakima Nation, and I had the best job and opportunities for interaction with the forest people.
Wonderful. Thank you. And sir, what is your name again?
Nobody in particular. Artifacts in the museum. We are really working hard on obtaining historical records and the collections of the older generation of Bigfooters who are sadly passing away because a lot of times their heirs don't know what to do with the stuff. So that's the goal, right? Apply a lot of it online for free, and then for researchers and things like that. So we're really working hard to collect items of historical and research significance and curate them appropriately. And frankly, the gift store and the museum part is really a way to feed my Bigfooting addiction, because that pays for my gas money to go to the woods.
That's why my dad became a mechanic. It was just so he could just keep tinkering with cars.
Yeah, something like that. Like that.
Okay, we have a microphone right here in the center. So if any of you have questions for our two guests, please make your way in an orderly fashion to the microphone. And I'm certain I can convince them to answer any questions you may have. But before we begin, we do need to say a quick thank you to the Canby Graphic and Signs for sponsoring all this and helping bring all this together. So let's give them a quick thank you for Canby Graphics and Signs. And if you have any graphics or sign requirements, I'm certain they would be more than happy to help you out. While anyone who'd like to ask some questions or fawn over you, makes it to the microphone, I do have a quick question for you, Cliff. Cliff is your name, right?
Yeah, it depends who's looking for me, but yeah.
Excellent. So what kind of artifacts have you found that are part of the museum?
We have some amazing stuff. So far, there's a very prolific researcher from the 1970s, and one of the very few women at the time, named Barbara Wasson. We're now the curator of Barbara Wasson's collection, and all of her personal correspondences with John Green and Renee DeHinden.
Oh, wow.
Just recently we acquired the Chuck Edmonds collection as well. Another, a lot of people don't know that name, but he was probably the most high-profile case he investigated was the Fort Bragg handprint from 1962, the big muddy handprint on the side of the building there, and that has yielded all sorts of surprises. He had fingerprints associated with it. We have the original artwork that Chuck Edmonds, who was an art instructor at Ashland, the college down there in Ashland, he visited the scene. We have about 20 or 30 reel-to-reel tapes, interviews that he's done with witnesses. We have actual hair samples that we put under the microscope, and they match Dr. Henner Fehrenbach's gold standard of hair, the morphological features of hair. There's a ton of stuff. We're always looking for original casts. We've obtained some really historic original casts that had never been uncovered before. There's just so much going on. My entire life is Bigfoot. I almost don't even have time to do stuff like this anymore because we're actually out there either in the field or somebody else's living room interviewing them about their past experiences. It's really been one of the most eye-opening opportunities I didn't even dream was possible.
Wow, that's exciting. I like that.
It's so exciting I can barely sleep at night. Or maybe that's the stress, I don't know.
Probably the latter. Sir, what is your question for our guests up here today?
Thanks for showing up, guys. Cliff, big fan here.
Thank you.
And I know your stance on this because I've heard you talk about it before, but do more Bigfoot put an odor out when they're stressed and stuff, or do they just not smell mostly at all?
Only 10 to 15% of sighting reports have a smell associated with it. Only 10 to 15%. And I think that probably has something to do with the way they do it. And we don't know, of course. There's just a lot of questions. Do they stink just because of bad hygiene? Is it because they're eating carrion, which is very likely? They've been seen picking up roadkill, for example. Or could it be like they're kind of like gorillas? Maybe they're that. Maybe there's something similar to a gorilla, because gorillas have a scent gland in their armpits that they can exude stenches out of that are often described in similar words as the smell of a Sasquatch. Now, of course, our armpits smell, not because we have a gland, but because of our sweat, and then bacteria starts living in it, and that's what actually creates the human BO smell, bacteria in our sweat. But in gorillas, they actually have a scent gland that exudes a smell, and they exude that scent. They exude the chemical that smells when they are stressed or aggressive or fighting or territorial or something like that. Now, I suspect, and I don't know much, but I suspect that since only 10 or 15% of sighting reports really have a smell associated with it, that it's probably a stress reaction, because I think it's pretty clear that Sasquatches prefer to stay out of sight. And I think that when they see when a Sasquatch sees a human, and they know that the human saw them, I imagine that's a pretty stressful situation. Maybe that's what causes that involuntary or voluntary exuding of the scent. We don't really know.
Oh. Yeah, with the reports that I get on the Yakima Reservation, it depends on, I guess, what the people are doing out there. A lot of them, you hear the reports about the smell of garbage or rotted meat, really sulfurous smells. But there are a few reports out there too that I've come across that, and I've smelled this personally, is a cinnamon smell.
Cinnamon?
Yeah.
Really? That's interesting.
And it comes out of nowhere. I mean, you don't expect it, and if you know the foliage and everything, like I said, I worked for the tribe in the forestry program, and I've smelled a lot of the different foliages throughout the years, and what really stuck out 3 times was the smell of cinnamon, and then this urge of everything going quiet, and then we were being followed. And so we could not, for the life of us, explain where the cinnamon smell was coming from.
That's interesting. I think I've smelled them 3 times, that maybe 4. That 4th one was different, though. The other 3 times, Bluff Creek area, the Sierras of California, and then the 3rd time was just this past October out in northern Kentucky. I was there a day and a half after a woman saw one, and she told me where it ran, and I got up the hill. And then all 3 times, those smelled like dog crap Parmesan. Yeah, it wasn't cool. I wish it smelled like cinnamon.
Yeah, that's a more preferable scent to have around you rather than the dog Parmesan.
Yeah, you want a cinnamon roll or a dog crap Parmesan roll? Why not your choice? It's breakfast. It could go either way.
Our next question, please.
I don't know what kind of question I'd have for you, but I just want to know, let you know I'm a great fan of yours. I first started watching you out in Southeast Asia. I lived out there for a number of years, and I found you on somehow on the internet. And I started watching him. Mel's worked up in that area where I'm from, that area also for 26 years. I grew up in that area. I ran around those mountains as a kid. Never saw or had a clue about Bigfoot. And so when I started watching you and your friends do what you do, I said, well, I never saw anything that even gave me a clue. And same with Mel, and his working with the Forest Service and coming across these guys. So I grew and grew more into seeing what I could find. I think I had one close encounter at Holloway Meadow, going way in the back there. So, but made my hair stand up, but I don't know what was making me do that because, anyway, I just want to say I want to get out to your museum and get more interested. I'm watching that Expedition Bigfoot now, and the season's over, but I've been digging more and more, but I'm a great fan of yours. I'm not a skeptic like, Renee. I hate her and any other skeptics. And
She's an acquired taste like Moneymaker. Yeah.
I'm trying to find her side anyway.
It's like a harsh whiskey. It takes a while to get to know her,
But you and Bobo and what's his name? Moneymaker. I really appreciate you guys and the work that you did. It opened my eyes way more. Because even a woodknock, I've never, well, maybe I did hear a woodknock. I don't know. I just never clued into the things that you have to notice out in the woods. Okay?
Well, thank you for the kind words.
Yeah. Well, I can expand on that with, I knew Cliff well before the programs started, and
it's been a long time now, man.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
We're old friends in more ways than one, like just old.
Yeah. And when I started having the experiences on the reservation, on the reservation, it's usually not talked about. It's kept quiet. There's certain times that we can speak about it in the open with people, and so my questions, my experiences that I was having while working, I couldn't explain. And then Cliff was part of the BFRO with Matt and Bobo, and so I got introduced to them on the expeditions in Washington. And then once I started talking with Cliff and everybody else, then all the experiences that I was having were exactly similar characteristics with what they were bringing to the table on these expeditions and sharing with everybody. So you know, Cliff is like a mentor to me in sharing all his information. And once you corral him and you ask one question, prepare to take lunch or dinner. And maybe he will take you out to lunch or dinner because he's loaded with information.
I'm feeling the love.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're good friends. Mm-hmm. I love Mel. Love me some Mel. Hi, welcome back.
I have a question for Cliff.
Closer to the mic.
I have a question for Cliff. What is the craziest story that you've heard or you know?
The craziest story that I've heard? God, you know, I do a podcast with Bobo, and a lot doesn't make the air. We have an editor, thank goodness. So some of the craziest stories I've heard come from him. And if you've had a good long conversation with Bobo, you're bound to hear something crazy as well. I did hear a gentleman, like most people know, I don't think Sasquatches are paranormal at all. Not one tiny bit. I'm an evidence-based researcher, and the evidence always brings me back to a mammal, a perfectly normal mammal. But I did have a guy who come into the museum not too long ago, very nice guy, and he had a very strange experience. I'm not going to say he was a liar. I'm going to say he had a very strange experience that I've not shared. And that's the way I deal with paranormal folks in general. You're experiencing something that I have not, and I'm under no obligation to explain it until I do. Just like the skeptics look at me and say, you think Sasquatches are real, but a skeptic would say, I have no obligation to try to explain Bigfoot. And that's where I come from. But this gentleman came in and he said that he saw a Sasquatch next to his cabin up in Zigzag, and he fell off his porch, and when he hit the ground on the porch, he was transported back in time, 200,000 years. And then at that point, the Bigfoot that he did see, or no, the one that he did not see, which I thought was interesting too. It's like, how do you know he didn't see it? But the Bigfoot he did not see 200,000 years ago down in the river asked him what those bright lights are in the sky, and he explained to the Sasquatch that they are stars. That's probably the weirdest story I've heard. But I get all sorts of weird stuff. But, you know, I've never experienced anything weird myself, so I just kind of keep going with the mammal hypothesis, you know? So... And maybe he's right. My life is extraordinarily boring compared to this gentleman's.
How did he get back?
I don't know. That's a good question. I didn't bother asking.
It seems like that's sort of a key.
He might have just waited around and he's 200,040 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would imagine he'd be, moisturized after all that time.
He saw the number 200,000 in his field of vision. That's how he knew he went back that far.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's convenient.
I don't know. Nice guy. Really enjoyed my conversation with him, but. You know.
And that's where. Have you ever been transported 200,000 years back in time now? No, I have not. But this is where Cliff and I kind of separate on things with our experiences, and that's why we gather in places like this to hear your stories and everything. And I have the most weirdest event ever that I'll share during my presentation later on today. And this has to do with a spiritual visitation by one of the beings that I collected some evidence from. And I've been told by my elders about situations like this, but unless you experience it full on, then you could try to, and it's taken me about 3 or 4 years now to kind of comprehend as I continuously dream about this event over and over again. And it's very emotional to me, and I've shared it in a couple of documentaries, and it's life-changing if you continue on, if you are going out to the woods and want to experience these forest people for yourselves. If you follow it and keep an open mind and open heart and to the experiences that they bring to you, you will have life-changing, altering events going forward.
But I think an important point here is that Mel and I are good friends, even though we don't necessarily agree about our model of Sasquatches. So unlike Facebook, you can actually not agree with somebody's point of view and get along just fine.
What?
Yeah, Facebook is to show off what kind of mental illness you have. That's what it seems like on my page, at least. I put something kind up about somebody and somebody hates me for it. But I'm just pointing out that you don't have to agree with somebody else in any form, Bigfoot or anything else, to get along with them just fine.
And it's a good idea to share experiences. I know the event that Mel is talking about. He shared it with me. And I think it's a good idea to share as much as you can with your trusted friends. So I want to put that out there since we live in such a vitriolic, divisive society now. So.
Balderdash, sir.
Balderdash.
Balderdash. Enemies all. What happened to your shoes?
I didn't need them.
I mean, it is a Bigfoot conference, so I mean, you're in good company.
Kind of a smaller footed guy. Anyway, my question is for you, Mel. Being a registered Yakima tribal member, Bigfoot was here a long time before the white people came to this continent. And my question to you is, if you look back or you feel the people that were here before the white people, what was their perception of Bigfoot? Was it a spectacular thing to see? Were they ashamed of it? Did they try to hide it? Were they proud of it?
Well, in the Native community, everybody and everyone is one. And we've always lived with our land and knew our limitations that we were supposed to for that land to continue to thrive. And living with the forest people as we did a long time ago, the legend for the Yakima is that we all live together. And we moved and we migrated down to the Columbia River. We went up to the Olympic Mountains. We moved everywhere with the foods. And we shared that lifestyle. And then it wasn't until the migration to up in this area that we became separated with them. And then we were kind of banished as people to be joining up or living with them continuously after that. And we were given a choice. And we made our choice, and so they decided to stay where they're at. And when we go out to the woods, we think of survival. And back then, it wasn't survival, it was living. It was the way we all lived. And they continue to live and thrive that way. And of course, the curiosity of us coming up into the areas has brought them around. I mean, before with us, it was metals. And now that we go out to the woods, we're taking travel trailers, we're taking all kinds of different items out there that they're curious about. And so if they do come around, that's their curiosity of joining and the experiences that people have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, question for you, Cliff. I'm curious, from your perspective, what do you consider to be kind of the best single piece of evidence for Bigfoot? Is it a video, an audio clip? I'm hoping you'll say it's the butt print in your museum, but what do you consider to be like the top tier thing you would hang your...
It's actually the congruency of the available evidence, and it's not a good answer, unfortunately, because you're looking for a single thing, like somebody wants me to say the Patterson-Gimlin film or something like that. But it's actually the way things fit together. That question, which I get a lot, by the way, it's an excellent question, is kind of like asking me or anybody, hey, which one of those pieces of the jigsaw puzzle is your favorite? You know what I mean? It's not the piece. It's how it fits together in the picture it shows afterwards. And I think we'll take the footprints, for example, the footprint cast evidence, which if I had to say something, it would be the body of footprint cast evidence, okay? Because it's internally congruent. It shows morphological features of non-human primates. The flexibility in the mid part of the foot is the shortening of the metatarsals, the elongation of the heel segment. I can go on and on. There's a lot of things about those footprints. And we didn't have eyes to see them until the good Dr. Jeff Meldrum came along, who studied non-human primate feet. He was the first guy who had that specialized training to identify the features we had been observing in the footprints all along. And so he was the first guy to see it. He shared that information in about 1999. But yet we can go back to the very first known Sasquatch print that is still in existence, the Jerry Crew cast from October of 1958, and you can see signs of the flexibility of the foot in that cast, which I find very compelling. But remember I said we're just looking at little pieces of the jigsaw. Let's mention the Patterson-Gimlin film. In that film, you can see her foot flexing in that same spot. Right? So that's what we're talking about here. It's like this piece of evidence is reflected in this piece of evidence over here. And when you take everything together, it shows a mosaic, a picture that these things are in fact living biological things out in the woods. That, to me, over time and space, from Kentucky to Washington to Alaska to wherever, Vietnam, I've seen, or China, there's footprints from China that show that same feature. These are the things that I find most compelling, the congruency of the evidence over time and space.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Unfortunately, we only have time for one more question. Hi there, young lady.
Hi there. If you guys have ever heard of Bigfoot, what does it sound like?
Want to do that one? Yeah. Well, we see on Finding Bigfoot, you guys mimicking the sounds all the time to try to call them in.
Yeah, but that's not the only sound they make.
Yeah, and so, they make a number of sounds, and, the whoops, you hear a lot. I've heard a lot while I've been at work. I've also heard them kind of like do this little rumbling growl. This is...
That's super scary, by the way, when you hear that. Yeah. Have you heard him yell oh my?
I've heard the yells. I've heard the screams. Wood knocks, rock clacking. There's a number of sounds. They mimic birds.
I have a witness that heard one mimic a mountain lion, and he saw it do it. It wasn't a question about, what's that sound? He saw the thing make the noise. Yeah.
Wow. And when I've been surrounded by at least 5 at one time, and they were communicating with whistles, wood knocks, the clicking of the teeth, the popping of the mouth. I've heard them talk loud, and I've heard them also whisper when they get really close.
Yeah, they probably make almost as many sounds as we do. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you. It's a great question.
Someone want to help her out with someone taller than her want to help her out real fast? Next year you can do that.
We really appreciate y'all. Unfortunately, the time with these two lovely gentlemen has come to an end.
We are lovely.
Here. You are lovely. I particularly like that shirt.
My wife got it for me for our anniversary a few.
Really?
Yeah.
She has a good eye.
Oh, well, except for I don't like her taste in men so much. But other than that,
Thank y'all for coming up. Again, they will be at the stalls just right over here. And but don't go away, we have some more wonderful researchers about to come on. Guys, thank y'all. You are now relieved of duty. You may saunter on into the sunset. Excellent. Okay. Let's give a great round of applause for our guests to welcome them, and we'll try all this again. We'll just pretend that didn't happen. There we go. Hey, Tom. How you doing?
Okay, how are you?
So far, so good. You enjoying yourself so far?
Yes.
All right. So, Tom Bowden, please tell the people who you are and where they can find you.
Okay, so I'm the Oregon State Director for the Mutual UFO Network. For those that don't know, MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, our mission is the scientific study of UFOs for the benefit of humanity. And the way we do that is we collect reports, UFO reports from the public, and we analyze them. We collect all the relevant data and we study them. The first thing we have to do is figure out whether the person's stimulus for the report was actually an explainable object or phenomenon. You have to determine that first, and all those reports get classified as identified with an explanation for how we arrived at that conclusion. And then the ones that are left are the ones that we consider to be UFOs, minus a few other categories that have to do with not enough information or reports that have to be rejected either because somebody's making up stuff and we don't trust them as a witness. But about, I would say roughly 30%, sometimes more, of the reports we get turn out to be unidentified, and those are what we consider to be UFOs. Some of them look like spacecraft. Some of them are nothing more than orbs or lights in the sky that we cannot explain. So that's a summary of what MUFON is all about.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Well, this is going to be a great panel. I can already feel it. Sir, you were up here entertaining us earlier, weren't you?
Yes, sir.
A little bit closer to the
Yes.
And your name is Paul.
Paul Graves.
Are you sure?
Positive.
What brings you here today outside of your vocal stylings?
Sasquatch research. I've been involved in Bigfoot Sasquatch research out of the Wenatchee, Washington area, north central Washington. Since 1988, I started researching. My first report, actually, my sister's here today. She's walking around somewhere, but I was over at my sister's house, and there was a TV program on about Bigfoot, and she had a couple over there, and we were sitting there, and when the show was over, the guy looked up, he goes, well, you know, I've seen one of these things.
Really?
And that began my search. My mom was a newspaper reporter, and I just kind of, for the first 10 years of my research, I was basically seeking out stories and encounters locally, and I've got over 400 really good, credible reports out of the Wenatchee area. Chelan County that Wenatchee's in is like 85% national forest.
Oh, wow.
So the county I live in is really good, suitable habitat. You know, really quick from my house, I can be into some good habitat. Like here, like in, you know, in Oregon, there's lots of great habitat. So.
Yeah, I'm from Texas, so trees are foreign to me. Particularly the kind of trees y'all have around here, and just driving it, you know, it was like I was just driving down the highway to get to the hotel. I'm like, oh wait, this is nature. So yeah, Oregon's a great place for this. Yeah, wonderful story. Robert, I gotta ask.
Jason.
What's with the mask?
Well, the mask is a copy of Canadian West Coast Native First Nations tribal, I should say, Kwakwaka'wakw, not deity, but figure, effigy, and I'll hold it up. Thanks, Paul. This is a representation of one of two types of beings, the male version of what you might say are types of Sasquatches. This is a buckwis. Buckwis was the male, it was the husband of the female Tsunaquah. The female Tsunaquah is the totem that you'll see in Seattle or Vancouver, often portrayed, on totems with the eyes closed and the lips pursed. Have you all seen something like that? John Green's book, The Sasquatch, The Apes Among Us, has on its cover such a mask. The Tsunaquah was the cannibalistic, giant, hairy female that would steal kids, put them in a basket on her back. She was like a Sasquatch that could weave. A lot of people sort of said, oh, myth, legend, and folklore from west coast of BC, because we know Sasquatches don't weave. Serious researchers have now come to find that as I knew as early as 98 in Alaska, we had a mask. We had a nest that was woven. It was like a giant gorilla nest, but it was woven out of cedar and stripped from the bark of trees. Bears don't do that. It was like a big donut, and it looked almost exactly like a gorilla nest, ground nest that the female gorilla would make. I'm an anthropology student who became a physical therapist, so I have anthropology degrees as well as degrees in Canadian chiropractic medicine, which means I had to write medical board exams. I've been through human anatomy so many times and primate anatomy that I can tell you the difference between any primate in my sleep.
So if Bigfoot has some problems with his lower vertebrae, you can pop him back into alignment for him.
I will not go there and do that. I've seen two Sasquatches. I am definitely not going to go there. I don't want to see any more. One close encounter, while with a girlfriend in Vancouver Island's Strathcona Park is described in my book. These are 30 behaviors that I've observed myself or studied with patients who were natives and had long histories of encounters with Sasquatches, either Haida Gagits or Simshan Ba'ushes, or Klinka Hutslan, or Kushtakas.
So where can they find your book? You have
Just
them with you?
over at the counter.
Wonderful. So they can. So when y'all are done here, they can go over there and get that book from y'all.
Sure, they can.
Wonderful.
But I'd like to hear their stories. I'm really here for you. I'm not here to sell books. I'm really here to hear your stories. That's why I have to write books to be able to get here, but it's because of you. And thank you for your curiosity, your scientific perseverance, and open-mindedness, especially at conferences where you don't usually find people who will discuss multiple dimensionality with flesh and blood phenomena, or flesh and blood tracks, hair, that sort of thing. So kudos, because we know that not all Sasquatch reports fall neatly into a flesh and blood paradigm.
And again, we do have a microphone right here. If y'all have any questions or comments for our panelists, please feel free to come up. We're open to all takers. But you have to get past Mel first.
Robert, got a quick question for you.
Sure.
So you've been doing this for a while. So in our research, we're finding a lot of people reporting green tint because most of our research is south. I can't help but notice the mask is green. Was that simply a choice made out of aesthetics by the indigenous groups that made that, or is that reflective of what they were observing in nature?
To be honest with you, I do not know. However, I do know this. If you go to Victoria, BC, and you go to the BC Provincial Museum, and you look at the Sasquatch, the female Seneca totem carving in front of the museum, she's black, and her infant is brown. So usually with quack, or we used to call them quackoodle, we're talking about Campbell River, halfway up Vancouver Island, north end of Vancouver Island, and the mainland across from there. The coloration is interesting. You don't usually get green. And remember, this is a reproduction, same colors as the original, which is in a museum in Germany. These should all be repatriated to their native tribal. The originals should all find their way back to the native First Nations and tribal cultural centers all across North America and Canada. So I'm just lucky to be able to have a copy of the original. It's an exact copy. I think that the color could be important. Green, you have the oral traditions of the green man in Europe. Occasionally I'll get a report of a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot with a greenish tint. Now, we know that if you hang out in Alaska long enough in Ketchikan, you could get old man's beard growing on. You could get a green tint perhaps, but we don't really know. I'll tell you one thing about color is...
Well, we've got a great question here.
Yeah, fire away.
Speaking of green, we have a gentleman in a green shirt here.
Yep.
So this is for Paul. I'm Kerry Trowbridge from Kashmir. The photo of the videotape of the Sasquatch walking across the game bridge in Suquamish. Do you know anything more about that, or anything around Cascade and Leavenworth?
Yeah, first on your first question, that turned out to be just a DOT worker. So he was wearing baggy clothes, and from a distance, if you see someone walking, so that was not real. But they are finding a lot of animals using that, so I think it's kind of neat that their whole vision of that is working. Yeah. Second question, are there sightings around Leavenworth? Like I said, so Chelan County, Leavenworth is in Chelan County. It's 85% national forest, maybe a little less. So yeah, there's wonderful habitat. I mean, within 1 hour, I can be at the crest of the Cascade Mountains, and there's a whole history of sightings dating way back. Actually, in Wenatchee, there was a school teacher back in the 40s and 50s. His name was Clarence Fox, and he used to take the kids out on outings, and he'd seen a Sasquatch twice, and he'd found numerous tracks. But John Green, chapter 18 in John Green's great book, The Apes Among Us, gives Clarence Fox credit as being the first modern day researcher, and again, that was in the late 40s and 50s when he was doing this work. He also was a timber cruiser, and he owned a Jeep, so he was able to get back out into the forest a lot deeper than most people at the time.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you for your question, sir. Tom, I got a question for you.
Yes.
So Congress is holding, recently held, some UAP, they're calling them UAPs now.
Yes.
You know, conferences on that, and I'll hold my opinions on that. But what are your thoughts? What do you think is happening there?
Well, this is the process of what many people talk about disclosure. But the concept of disclosure with a capital D that many people have is that all of a sudden one day the president's going to come on TV and he's going to spill the beans about all the UFOs, cases that have been hidden by the government over the years. I don't think that's realistic. But what we're seeing is disclosure, what some people call the drip style of disclosure. What we've seen is selected cases discussed by the military, the Defense Department, people who they chose as spokesmen. Unfortunately, in the hearing that I saw televised, they chose some of the worst videos and cases to talk about to the public, which to me that really means that they're still putting on the brakes. They don't want to give us the really good stuff. And to be honest, some of the things that I know as a UFO researcher for, many, many years, I've been studying the subject for 50 years, some of the information that could come out might be disturbing to some people. So the people that are in charge of deciding what to talk about, they naturally have some misgivings about some of the things that could be talked about. Plus, you have to realize how the intelligence community is organized. They have various kinds of ways of protecting information. They have what's called classification. That's the level, like, confidential, secret, top secret, and then top secret special programs. And then they have something else called compartmentalization. And that's the vertical silo of information. That means if you're assigned to a project, you get access to the information that's relevant to your project. But the guy in the next cubicle doesn't necessarily, even though he may have, you both have a top secret classification, but he's working on a different project. He doesn't get to see what you know, and you don't get to see what he knows. And this is called the need to know, and it's controlled by the person who is in charge of the information. Nobody else gets to be an arbiter of need to know. So there's so much control of information. Remember, the government and the military, to them, control is the ultimate goal. They want to control everything. So they want to control the information. They're very worried about what happens if they let go of too much information, because once they do, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So I'm just trying to give you a way to think about it when you watch these hearings and things. You have to put your kind of critical thinking hat on and sort of analyze what's going on. You can't just blindly assume that you understand everything that people are saying. There's a lot of going on behind the scenes that you don't necessarily understand fully.
Yeah, the compartmentalization, that was, if y'all were watching, the panels, one of the answers you heard the most often was, "I have not been read into that." That is a very specific legal term in the military, which again goes back to compartmentalization. Is they're not saying they don't know anything. Yeah. They're just saying, as far as that project's concerned, they have not been officially read into that information or into that dossier. So they have it's a legal term. It's a term of art, as they say. I have a question. It's the question of the day for my panelists, and this is open to the entire panel. I want to start with Tom. Bigfoot and UFOs. What is their connection?
Well,
if there's one, in your opinion.
To be honest, I spend a lot of time studying UFO reports, very little on understanding Bigfoot. I have seen some material that indicates that Bigfoot is sometimes seen in and around UFOs, but I'm going to explain something right now, and this is really a call for help from the public in general. Anyone who is involved in Bigfoot research to the point where you actually go out and try to find Bigfoot in the forest or in wherever wild places you go to look for Bigfoot. If you see UFOs while you're there, please report them to MUFON. We do not know about UFOs unless the witness reports them to MUFON. And it's simple. You go to MUFON.com, that's MUFON.com. You look for a link that says report a UFO. If you're on a computer, a regular, big screen computer, it'll be right up at the top of the screen. If you're on a mobile device, you have to go to the link that says, you go to the 3-line drop down where it says track UFOs. Click on that. Under that, it says report a UFO. You click there, fill out the dialogue, giving all the information that's being requested, attach any photos or videos you may have, and submit it. That's how we get our reports, and that's what we do. Then we follow up on all the reports we get. And so if you see Bigfoot and you see a UFO at the same time, please report it to MUFON, because otherwise we don't know.
But only if you see Bigfoot and UFO together. No. Please do contact you, MUFON, if you see anything. Again, it's one of those see something, hear something. No researcher can know what no one has told them. You have an experience out in the middle of nowhere. No, you're probably the only one who's had an experience. That's a data point they do not have access to. Paul, what are your thoughts on the question?
Well, that is a good question. I always keep an open mind on that whole thing. The one thing I will tell you, the longer I've been involved in this research, so I started in '88, 30-some years. I know these other guys have been doing it even 50 plus and whatever. The longer that you seem to be in it, the more you are like, okay, there's something else going on to this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I can't put my finger on it, but I do believe there's something more to these hominids that we just don't know. And it's because we're humans and they're Sasquatches. They're on their own plane. They're doing their own thing. When they're walking by or they walk in front of a car, they're going somewhere. They're on their own pathway, and like the longer that you're in this, at first you're out looking for the tracks. I don't personally go hunting for Bigfoot, just to let you know. I bring the Bigfoots to me, and one of the best ways to do that is with my music, actually, believe it or not.
No, I do the same. I don't play. You don't ever want to hear me sing, but I play music.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. I want to have them drawn in, because they do seem to be very sneaky. Like they can be right next to you, sitting next to you.
Yeah.
You'd never see them.
Well, the best way to see
right behind you.
The best way to see a Bigfoot is actually have a happy camp and stay in your camp for as long as you can. Don't go poking around in all directions in the woods. Have a camp, stay there, and they will eventually come and check you out. A lot of times they're crawling on their belly when they check you out. They're not. They don't just stand up straight. They'll drop down to 1 foot and crawl in like a snake and check you out, over a log or something like that. We've got them on thermal doing that numerous times at a place.
Interesting. And that's people forget. You can be very quiet when you're out in the woods. A lot of that sound is absorbed by the grass, by the leaves, so you expect to hear a lot of noise sometimes, but they don't have to work very hard to not be heard. And so I think a lot of times we just sort of expect this huge, Tyrannosaurus Rex a la Jurassic Park thumping noise. And it's like that. They can be much, much quieter than that.
But they can also make that noise.
But they can make that noise, yes. So, Robert, does Bigfoot get abducted?
Well, I don't use the word Bigfoot because it applies to certain living Native North Americans who actually use that name as well as historical. I'll use a Native name whenever I can. Sabe, Tarsej the Kiyasin, just saying hi to any Canadian Cree. I'm Canadian. I grew up with Crees. That goes from northern British Columbia all the way across to Quebec. It's almost as wide a continuum. They're moose hunting people, live in the northern forest. My dad was the only non-native adult male who would fly in from 200 miles to teach at a native school. Anyway, Cree belief, call them Sabe, giants. If you're from Minnesota, you've heard of the Mesabi Range. The range is Chippewa or Algonquin or Cree for big. It's a prefix. If your name is Uchek, meaning otter, and you're a big otter, you're Moochek. If you're a bear, Musqueam, you're Musqueam, big bear. So Sasquatches, I'll call them Sabe. Okay, kind of like Steve Istall does on howtohunt.com. He reads all emails. People who say Sasquatches or Sabe are multidimensional, or they're flesh and blood, or they're good, they're bad, they're ugly. They're kind of like people because they are people. They're people. They're forest people. They're night people. They're hominids. They're not apes, but they may be more than just vibrating, giant hair-covered man-like beings. They may actually have a dimensionality and a spirituality. In fact, I'm sure of it, that a good number of them are more than just the two parent flesh and blood beings that I saw throwing pebbles on my tent and crossing the highway in front of my vehicle. So
Interesting.
Yeah. Let's delve more into that question.
Well, we have unfortunately we have like 5 minutes left. I want to get Shoeless Joe is back. Oh yeah. Do you have thing 1 and thing 2 with you?
No, but it's fun to have fun if you know how.
It is.
Okay, so my question is about UFOs. And I'm a native of the great state of Oregon, growing up in the northwest quadrant, where a lot of people, a lot of lights exist. My experience with a UFO, which will not be denied because I could not identify it, that's what it is, was in the southeast quadrant of our state where very, very few people live. And as you say, the data we have comes from people reporting. There's very few people in the southwest quadrant of our state. So my question is this: is there a place that you're more likely within our state to experience an unidentified flying object?
Well, that's difficult to define, to identify. What happens is we occasionally get upticks in reporting in a certain area, and it's what we term a flap in UFO terminology. And I've had periods of time when Cottage Grove kind of blew up, and like for a year or so I got a lot of reports from there. I've a disproportionate number of UFO sighting reports from Sutherland, which is along I-5, and about half of them are from locals, and about half are from people just driving through on I-5. So that's a sort of mysterious place. And the problem with my attempt to answer your question is I really don't have enough data to nail a specific place as being a hot spot, if you will. Now, southeastern Oregon is interesting, and I do pay close attention when I get reports from there, because as you point out, it's sparsely populated. What we have found and this is just a natural statistic from, it's just what happens. We get the most UFO reports from the places that have the most population. More pairs of eyes out there, more chances for people to see something they cannot identify, so they report it as UFO. Southeastern Oregon, Harney County, Malheur out there, there's definitely something going on, because when I do get reports from there, that area, they're more than just like little lights in the sky. They tend to be something quite significant, like a really large craft at sea making strange maneuvers. It's just that a lot of people that live out there, they're more conservative. They don't want to talk about weird stuff like that because people think they're crazy. So they just shut up about it and they don't report it to anyone. And I wish I had more people in southeastern Oregon that are willing to report their UFO sightings to MUFON, because I would find it very interesting.
There you go. That goes back to what we were saying earlier. You can't know what no one tells you.
That's right.
So if you see something, say something, right? MUFON's here for those reports. And if you are from that region, tell your friends, hey, if you see something, go talk to MUFON about it. We need data points to build. Cliff Brockman was talking about how you have these data points that they're a jigsaw. You assemble the jigsaw to see the real picture. We need more data points. That's what we need. We're coming to the end, but I want to hear from one last time from everybody. Paul, what are your final thoughts, parting thoughts? Wisdom to the masses, sir.
Like I said, if you want to have an encounter, go out and really just set up a camp and try to draw them to you. Just be doing normal things and playing music. I've done it for most of my research, and I've had great luck with that. So yeah, just try to make your own camp and go out and act like a normal camper, but have the tools with you maybe to do some research. I think the best research tool for Bigfooting is a small audio recorder. Cameras and stuff like that, they tend to shy away from. So take a small recorder with you, and yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Tom, your thoughts?
Yes, the one thing that I think is tying UFOs and Bigfoot together, or Sasquatch, or whatever word you want to use, is these beings they're not just flesh and blood beings. The sources I've read about Sasquatch indicate that they have paranormal powers, that they exist in a realm beyond just physical, biological creatures. And that ties them automatically to what my good friend and scholarly colleague calls the transpersonal world, or if you will, the paranormal world. Now, UFOs are part of that too. And the evidence for that is the large number of sightings where people see things like UFOs appearing and disappearing in midair, or they experience communication, like messages coming straight into their head when they're viewing a UFO, some kind of, like download right into their brain, and they hear a voice in their head telling them things. People that have been through close encounters and abductions and have very strange encounters that are so difficult to explain in conventional terms. These all are related to what we commonly term the paranormal. And to me, that's the common bridge between UFOs and Sasquatch, is that relationship to the paranormal.
It's the overlapping phenomena that we start seeing.
Yes.
Now, Robert, you're actually here. Y'all are over there taking accounts and reports. You want to hear from them, correct?
Right. Absolutely.
So you're over here, Tom. Are you over there as well, taking reports?
I'm at a table over there. Yeah, I'm just there to talk. But honestly, if you have a report to make, I'd prefer you make it through the internet. And the reason is because we have a dialogue set up to capture all the detailed information that we need in order to really analyze your report. But I'd love to hear your stories anyway.
Again, when our lovely panelists leave, you can go talk to them, give them your accounts, your reports over at the thing. At 1 o'clock, I'll be hosting over at the 4-H hall, sort of a smaller group thing. Y'all are definitely invited to come on by. Again, thank you to the panelists. We appreciate all y'all. Y'all did great work. So enjoy the rest of the show. We'll all be back up here again at from 4 to 6. And there are smaller things happening. Again, I'll be at 1 o'clock at the 4-H hall. Y'all have been a great crew, and we look forward to seeing y'all for the rest of the conference. Y'all have a great day.
Yeah.